Welcome back to Created by God. Today we are going to be doing a video review of the Easythreed X1. You've probably seen a couple of reviews on this printer. I especially liked Chep's review of this because he went into how this could be very useful for flexibles and how it actually printed Ninjaflex pretty well. So I'm actually going to see if this printer is going to be a Ninjaflex Master. But we're also going to check out nerdyness's profile on PLA and see if we can't get it to print decent for PLA. It is the least expensive 3D printer on the market as of my purchase. I got this on sale from Banggood at $75 plus tax, shipped to my door. So that's an amazing deal for a complete printer. So if you guys want to check that out, I'll try to leave a link in the description down below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hope you like this video. So we're going to get started. We're just going to do an unbox, go through all the components and see what's inside, and then kind of do a quick review of what I think about the overall build of the printer itself, and then also the features and things like that. Obviously this printer does not have a heated build plate for that kind of money, but still a great option for an entry-level printer. So let's take a look. First, we've got a decent little sample size of PLA. It actually says 3D pin material, so obviously that was intended to also sell with their 3D pins. Easythreed does have several other printers. They have a cube style printer. They have an X1, X2, X3, X4. So please check out all their other printers as well. We're just going to be doing a review on this one today. Like some kind of plate, maybe spool holder. Got a must-read instructions here. USB cable. Tools. And looks like a few screws and a USB with an adapter for micro SD. Yep, and here is the spool holder. Looks like the X and Z gantry all together in one piece. It's already plugged into the base and everything. So I'll sit down here and take a look at how this needs to go together. And power adapter. Looks like that's it for what's in the box. So we'll set that to the side. Basically this just says create an STL file for a 3D model. It tells you a little bit about that, how to slice it, and then save it as a G-code. So no instructions on how to actually put the printer together. It does appear that the assembly just slides together. One thing I did notice right off the bat, just so you guys can see, looks like they used these press-in plastic zerts. Which you just heat up with like a solder gun and then wait till the plastic gets hot and you press in. Looks like on a couple of these, they overstress the material because you can see it's discolored, which is not really good, so I want to be very careful on those, not to over tighten any screws or anything, but that's just something to keep an eye on. A little concerned about these wires. They seem overly tight in terms of getting them in. I'm not quite sure how that's supposed to work, but we're gonna try this again here because it doesn't seem to. There we go. So hopefully that works out. Those were a little challenging to get in without pinching, so hopefully we didn't damage any of those wires. But in terms of ease of install, it seemed pretty easy here. It's like just a single connector. It's quite small, so be careful with it. So that appears to be the only installation. We've got a couple of screws we need to install here. Looks like it might have some little pads for to go underneath, maybe to stabilize the vibrations. Obviously this is a plastic frame printer, so it's not going to be the most stable compared to some of the better aluminum versions. Even the Monoprice Maker Select V2 is not a very stable printer, being a metal frame, so you have to add stabilization bars in order to make that frame more solid. So it doesn't even appear that there's any kind of QR code or anything like that as well to ease in installation. So if you're not familiar with how to install printers, or how to assemble printers, I would highly recommend taking the time to watch someone do it before you attempt to do it yourself. Obviously, the more you know, the less chances you're going to have of potentially damaging the printer before you even get started. So definitely something to keep in mind. Looks like these do have little mechanical X, Y, and Z switches, which are pretty common even on some of your more expensive printers. So something to keep in mind, that's not uncommon. But looks like the bed is also plastic, which I'm a little concerned about, even just with the heat from the nozzle itself. So and it looks like this printer has been tested because there's some filament around the actual nozzle itself, so we'll just hope that the thing prints well. It looks like they actually might have taken into suggestion a part cooling fan, because there seems to be a duct on this one. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. There's actually a duct right there. Which was something that was not mentioned in any of the other reviews. So I'm assuming that this is something that Easythreed has actually taken as a suggestion for improved print quality. So that's pretty impressive there. very happy with that, but it does appear to be a printed duct, but still, nonetheless, an improvement. So. So we've really just got these 2 screws and nuts that hold this whole printer together. Well, I mean, at least the part that you have to assemble. There's several other bolts and nuts that hold the printer together, but as far as what assembly you would have to do when purchasing this, looks like this is it. There's no lock washer or anything like that, so I'm assuming they don't expect you to get it extremely tight. Being that it is plastic, you wouldn't want to over tighten it anyway, but just something to keep in mind. Just make sure that it is snug, because you don't want any added vibrations in a printer like this that's plastic. So like I said before, vibrations can cause lots of issues, and it's definitely not something you want to add any more problems to. So. If you guys enjoy this video, please let me know what you'd like to see. Always trying to come up with new ideas and things to share with you guys. If you'd like a review or my personal opinions on any of the printers you see behind you, I've got several. I've got an i3 Mega Anycubic. I've got this recently acquired AlphaWise U10, the Monoprice Maker Select V2. I've got the DaVinci Junior, and actually, believe it or not, out of all these, my favorite, my Ender 3. It is a very, very, very solid printer. So if you want to see a review on that, please let me know. And other than that, if you guys know of anything else creative-wise that you'd like to see on this channel, I'd be happy to post a video of it. We've got lots of things that we plan on doing on this channel, so if you can think of anything that you would like to see in particular, please just comment below and let me know. And if you don't like what we do, then I'm sorry, but happy creating anyway. Okay, one thing I noticed right away is that the design for where the screw and nut goes together here is not made very well. It does not appear that there's actually enough room to get the screw and nut assembly together. They've got it right up against the Z-limit switch, which I guess would act as a nut stop on one side. I'm not a big fan of using the Z-limit switch as a nut stop, but that beside the point. Doesn't really give you a whole lot of room to work. The little screwdriver they sent actually is not too bad. Has a nice grip to it, so it's unusual. You don't see Phillips or the style bit for sure in a 3D printer normally, except for maybe on the bed screws. Normally everything is Allen head, which there are quite a few Allen heads on this. Just seems odd that they would use a Phillips for the rest of the printer, or for the part of the assembly that you would normally have. They would usually send Allen screws so that you can maintenance your printer. Okay, it looks like there's Phillips on the front as well, so they kind of mix and matched across what they used. So printers together seems pretty solid. We'll get some power ran to it, get the spool holder put on, and then we'll see what's on the SD card. And if it decides it wants to print, we'll see if we can't get this bed leveled. I'll walk you through that. All right, so I paused the video because I realized that obviously if it came with an SD card, I probably need to check and see what's on that. We might find some instructions on there. So let's plug this in real quick. And wanted to see exactly what might be on here. All right, there's a lot of stuff on here. Okay, it looks like we've got some Chinese files. We got a user's manual, install manual, user manual. Let's see here. 7 pages. Holds up to a 250 kilogram spool. So the printer automatically turns on once it's plugged in. You must disconnect power to turn the printer off. The USB cable is for firmware updates only. It is not recommended for printing. In fact, it says do not print with this. It says to use the SD card only. EasyWare is the slicer they send with the printer. All right, great. So it does give some instructions on exactly what we need to do here. So we've got a home, a plus, a minus, and the play button. All right, so there's all kinds of stuff on here. There's an Android app manual, the EasyWare for Mac or Windows, online printing manual, Cura 3.6 install, which is pretty nice. We've got E3D Magic and the calibration cat. Calicat is what's on here for a test print. Looks like all of this was installed on the SD card somewhere around November of 19, so I'm assuming that's when this unit was probably built and shipped. Oh wait, no, 5720, there's a file on here, the USB drive for online printing, so it must have been shipped, it must have been built this year somewhere after May, so I just received this about a week ago. So there's a CH340, 341 app on here. I'm not sure what that is exactly. Maybe that's the driver for being able to connect for the firmware update. Not exactly sure. But awesome. One thing I did notice about the print bed here is the holes are not exactly perfect to where the screw holes are on the actual bed itself. In fact, actually the magnetic piece here is curled up a little bit on the edge. So what I'm probably going to do to just make this as smooth as possible, to create as few issues as possible when printing, is probably cut these corners at like 45, just because with most of your printers that have screws on the edges, those screws are not normally covered by the bed print surface. So something that I probably will do, let me know if you think that's a great idea or not, but I believe that that's something that would help maybe make this printer just slightly better. Obviously, it's an entry-level printer. We don't expect miracles, but especially compared to some other entry-level printers that are much higher quality. You know, obviously the entry-level Ender 3 right now is $167. I paid $179 for that printer. So I've got most of these on Facebook, used. I like to buy my printers used, get a much better bang for your buck. I've also got a TiVo Tornado over here, the gold edition, which has challenges, which is why it's on the floor. So that one's put to the side for now, and we're working on these. The part cooling fan failed, and just after I got it printing successfully with a CR10S profile. So beside the point, we'll get to that later. I did have some issues with that printer over the many months of trying to use it, so it's on the back burner for now. However, I'm really excited to see this Easythreed X1 and see if it actually can print all the different flexibles successfully. I'm really excited to try Polyflex. I've got a spool of that over there, Spiderflex, and a couple of others. So anyway, if there's any particular filament that you would really like me to try on this, and show you kind of some samples of how it prints. Let me know. For $79, if this thing can print flexibles just by themselves, and there's a lot of people that print flexible materials for RC cars and things like that. If this thing can print successfully, if you can print tires for your RC cars, I mean, it's worth $79 all by itself. So, but there's all different kinds of things that you could do with this printer. If flexibles are going to be a big thing that you want to print. So I have heard that the print speeds on this are extremely slow. I think max is 30 millimeters per second. So not going to be lightning fast. I can print upwards right now, even with not any real modifications on my Ender 3, somewhere around 80 or 100 millimeters per second. So definitely not going to win any speed contests, but if you're interested in printing stuff that you normally wouldn't be able to print with other printers, or you just don't want to take up time for things that your other printers could be doing, especially if they're making money for you, then obviously something that you can use for experimenting. So, so far so good. So we'll get this thing plugged in and turned on, and let's get this spool holder on. It does look like looks like it's made out of just some basic acrylic. We'll get the protective paper off of the one side that they left on. It is stuck pretty good. Okay, there we go. This appears to be laser cut acrylic. It is very clean edges. Looks pretty good. As far as the spool holder, looks like it goes in at an angle and then just kind of clips in. It's not super sturdy, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. I did see that the picture showed the spool holder going inside towards the base, like this here. So it sits there, and then we just tighten down these screws. Wow, or maybe not. Those things are fairly tight in there. All right, so we're gonna need a better screwdriver than this in order to get those screws tight. So keep that in mind if you don't have tools. It may be fairly difficult to get this printer assembled properly. The actual screws here were not too bad, but the ones on the side are just self-drilling screws. So definitely gonna need to grab a screwdriver for that. So give me just a second. Bigger screwdriver, so we should be able to get these things tight here. Oh yeah, much better. Definitely need some more leverage on that. And just so you guys know, I do know that this portable folding lifetime table is not a great printing surface. For quick reviews, obviously this is just temporary. This one will actually probably wind up on the corner of the bench over here, which this bench is super sturdy, so I'm not worried about any vibrations or anything like that. So obviously the print quality on this table is going to be slightly different than it would be on something a little more solid, but in general we should be able to get an idea of exactly what you're going to see out of this printer. Probably when I move to the flexibles after using the provided PLA, we will probably move it over there just to make sure it's on a nice solid surface. I'll probably add the little foam cushions to the bottom just to help with any extra vibrations. And again, I'm going to trim the edges of that bed there. So that went together pretty nicely. I do not have any 250 gram spools. In fact, 500 grams I think is the smallest spool I have. So I do have several spools of 3D printer pen PLA, so we can probably go through quite a few different versions of that to see what colors work well. In terms of flexibles, we'll see. I might have to cut off a small section of the Polyflex and just kind of wrap it on there. If anybody has a good printed 250 gram spool that they know of, please comment down below. I'd be interested in seeing that because I could always just transfer some filament to that. That would help eliminate needing to buy extra spools. One thing I do notice here, just from visual inspection, the clearance between the end of the spool here and the Z-axis or Z-axis is not very great. So I'm assuming you're going to have to unload and load this actual spool rod every time, which it does appear to be ABS. So I'm not overly concerned about breaking it. However, something to keep in mind over several uses is just being able to get that in there. So you might need a narrower spool to slide over this, just so it can go on there without any issues. So just something extra to keep in mind. I'm pretty excited to see how this thing works. If you guys have any other questions about it or anything that you want to see or know, just please let me know, and we'll try to get this thing printing ASAP. So turn this at an angle so you guys can see it a little bit better. Try to move the camera as well. All right, so let's get this thing plugged in, get the SD card mounted, and see if we can't get this thing leveled and printing. I think before I actually start a print though, I think I'm gonna go ahead and trim those edges on that. Oh, by the way, this build surface does appear to be just a piece of magnet that has a piece of some kind of build tack like surface. I'm not exactly sure what it is. It doesn't feel exactly like build tack, because build tack's what actually came with the Ender 3. I upgraded to the PEI, the textured PEI magnetic, and that thing is amazing. Highly recommend that. That should have been done basically when I bought the printer, but the build tack worked for a while. Anyway, this feels a little different. It's a little softer than that material, but it does have a nice texture, so I believe that everything's going to stick pretty well. But you can tell it's just adhered to this magnet here. So we'll see how well this does. I might see, since this is magnetic here, if I can't get a piece of spring steel in this size. That would help with the print quality, I believe, especially if there's a textured PEI version, which I don't know if I'm going to be able to find one in 100 by 100, but if I can, that'd be great. So we'll see if we can't find that. Okay, so we'll get that trimmed and we'll get this thing plugged in, and I'll let you guys see the test print and we'll go from there. All right, so we're about ready to get this thing leveled and see if we can start printing. I was going to cut the build surface, but I'm actually going to do that later so we can go ahead and get the review done on this. I don't think I have anything else. I was looking over the printer a little bit. Obviously, it is only a $79 printer, so there's not much to be expected, but we'll just see how well it does print. I'm hoping that we can get some decent quality stuff out of it. Obviously, I'm going to print the CaliCat the way it comes right out of the box. I don't expect much from that print. Hopefully it sticks. I like to use Post-its. They're a nice, almost perfect thickness. Not quite as thin as a regular notebook sheet paper, and not quite as thick as, say, an index card. So usually gets a perfect stick in my opinion, and let's see if we can't get some better prints with this. First thing I would like to do, especially when I've got a new printer so I don't damage something, is crank the wheels down on the bed. And the reason why I do that is so that we don't take any chances of getting the nozzle buried into the print bed when it homes, which I've learned from experience is a good way to ruin your build surface right away. So we don't want to do that if we can help it. I will say these knobs for the build surface here for adjusting the height are not easy to get to. So if you have big hands, you may have some difficulty getting these things twisted. Yeah, so just something to keep in mind. Yeah, so I cranked those down a little bit. I just want to make sure that we get it far enough away from the nozzle we don't have to worry about it. I'm going to pull up the PDF here and make sure that, oh, looks like they do have a YouTube channel, Easythreed 3D, so I would say check that out for any questions you may have. Let's get this thing, it says extruder temps are 180 to 230. They recommend PLA at 180. I'm not sure exactly what the settings are on the G code. We'll take a look at that later for the Calicat they've got here. For leveling, I'm actually going to go ahead and remove the SD card. It is a generic SD, says made in Taiwan. It does say C10, 4 GB. So I believe that means that it's a class 10 card, which you definitely want to be using class 10 if you're not familiar with 3D printing. Definitely don't skimp out on your SD cards. You will have issues. So definitely take the time and spend the extra money, so that way you don't have to worry about the potential hazards of corrupted cards. I will say cards do wear out, so if you notice that you're having some issues, maybe copy the data to a new card, see if that fixes it, maybe reslice it, put it on a new card. No guarantees, but just something to keep in mind. So it says to go ahead and plug it in and hit the home button. So let's get this thing. All right. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but the light is on and green. So that's a good sign here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit the home button. Oh, there we go. All right, so I'm definitely far enough away. I probably got a good 2 millimeters there. So I'm gonna back these off. Now there is no homing of X or Y, just Z. I learned that through the other reviews that I watched. So just something to keep in mind, that you're gonna have to manually move those. So initially, if you do buy this printer, just make sure that you lower the bed enough that you don't dig the hot nozzle into the bed and make it unusable right off the bat. So let's definitely want to do this a couple times. I know it's annoying, but leveling your, I mean, even 3 times just to make sure that your bed is pretty level. That should be sufficient there. Alright, so let's load up some filament here and see if we can't get this thing printed. So the problem with sample filament like this here is that it is highly likely to be, well, just not wound correctly. So not something that you really want to have to deal with, but unfortunately that's just the way it is. Alright, so the nozzle's heating. That's what the plus button flashing is. So click the plus button once, it's flashing. Again, not a big fan of these sample filaments. I've got tons of them from 3D pens that we use. So again, you're probably going to get something tangled here, possibly filled prints, just something to keep in mind. Not a whole lot you can really do about that. So I'm actually going to move this up and away from the, well, up here it's going. Alright. Oh. Alright, so it's feeding. Trying to get this thing up. It does not appear to want to move up on the Z. So press button to finish feed. Aha. Got some filament. So you have to hold the button for 3 seconds in order for it to, well, looks like I've got some stuck filament there. You have to hold the button for 3 seconds in order for it to raise, the play button. It raises 10 millimeters or 1 centimeter. Let's get that little bit of filament off here. There we go. So, all right. And let's feed a little more because that looked like it was clear. So, there it goes. Oh, there you go. As you can see, we got filament coming out, and it appears to be white. Perfect. So, That's good. So we can stop that. And I want to just click the play button here. And hopefully it should start printing. This is a very stringy filament, so something to keep in mind when you're buying this. It does appear to be extremely stringy. Oh, there we go. And we're printing. I believe I did read that this printer does produce a raft for all of its prints if you use their provided software. Obviously, because it doesn't have a heated build surface, parts don't always like to stay stuck. So something to keep in mind, although surprisingly the print quality on this is fairly good. I'm going to do a cutscene so you guys can see. Alright, so I hope you guys can see that although it's not great, it is printing. Here's we do have some gaps between the lines, which I'm sure we can probably fix just with some quick settings in the slicer, but overall it is printing. These sample filaments are really not great, to say the least. So, you know, we have some filament issues we might be dealing with as well. But again, this is a $75 printer. It is set up and it is printing. That in and of itself is a success. Whether we get great prints or not is, you know, besides the point. So we're gonna go ahead and let this print. We'll take a look at the print quality and we go from there. One of the downfalls to a printer like this without any kind of display, you really don't have any idea of where you're at or how much time you've got left as well. So just something to keep in mind. Again, you've got many more options here in terms of what might be available for slightly more money. The Anycubic Mega Zero, it's only $139 right now. Like I said, I've got that i3 Mega, got the Alpha Wise U10, Monoprice Maker Select V2, but honestly my Ender is actually the best quality printer I have. The Anycubic i3 Mega does a great job. The Monoprice, I like the fact that it's direct drive. However, it's not quite on par for what I would prefer, even though it is a dual Z rod. It's just kind of clunky. So if you'd like to hear any more about those, just let me know. All right, so we're back. I am actually really impressed with the initial print quality of this. Much better than the pictures that Chep showed. I'm gonna put a cut video in so you can kind of see it up close. Hopefully you get a little bit better idea of how it looks, but yeah, the overhangs on the underside of the tail look fantastic. There's a little bit of curling on the edges of the head, but again, this is a $75 printer. Peels off extremely easy from this magnetic build tack-like surface. And let's see how easy this raft comes off. It's stuck pretty good. Yeah, the raft doesn't seem to want to come off, so might have some issues with the settings on the rafts. But again, this was the stock print file. Yeah, so we got a layer separation here on, I can't see it from that far away, but there's a layer separation on the raft. So I'm just gonna kind of leave that the way it is. It's a cute little cat. We do have a significant amount of ghosting, but again, $75 printer. I'm actually surprised at how well it printed compared to some of my more expensive printers. So just something to keep in mind. Overall, my initial thoughts on this printer are actually really good. A couple of design flaws, but I mean, for $75, there's not a whole lot I can really complain about. You know, something that I thought might be interesting is potentially changing out the extruder motor, because it's kind of just a basic little motor. So something that we may be able to increase a little bit of some print speeds by changing that little motor gear, because based on the pictures I've seen of the inside of this, and I'll take it apart so we can see it in another video, but the actual little motor that drives the extruder is just a real basic motor, but if we could get one in that same size that has a little more torque, it would be really nice to see if we can get this thing to print things a little faster, and maybe flexibles a little bit faster as well. Obviously, you don't want to print too fast with flexibles. That's one of the downfalls, is you gotta kind of print them slow. So, but anyway, yeah, overall, really like this printer. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. If I forgot something that I said I was gonna do, let me know in the comments below. Yeah, so our verse for today is Psalm 31:24. Be strong and courageous, all who put their hope in the Lord. So I really hope you enjoyed the video. Fellow creators and created. Hope to see you guys next time, and please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks. See you later.